If you are managing dementia from another city, this episode is for you. You have the power of attorney. You are monitoring their accounts. You coordinate all the appointments, and you talk every day. On paper, everything looks handled, and yet you cannot fully relax. You are alert. You are filling the gaps. You are trying to stay ahead of what might happen next. You think the next step is more local help. And that sounds reasonable. But there is a point in dementia caregiving when the issue is no longer about adding support. It is about whether the current structure can still hold. Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians, the podcast for Bible-believing Christians trying to solve the right thing in the wrong order. In today's episode, we are going to identify the moment when managing from a distance quietly stops working, even while everything still appears stable. If something in you already senses that your current system is weaker than it looks, listen carefully. And if you recognize your situation as we walk through it, that is the moment for you to schedule your DigniCare solution session. Not for more help, but for clarity about what decision and where this decision actually lives. You can go to thinkdifferentdementia.com and schedule it on the website, or you can click the link in the show notes. Now to today's episode, where I'd love for you to listen carefully. Joan, I'm so happy to hear you.
Yeah,
I am excited that you are here, young lady.
yeah, thank
So
you.
wonderful to meet you.
My sister lives in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm near Atlanta, and she is the one that has diagnosed dementia. And, it's just my sister and I. She's got some friends up there who have been helpful, but, you know, much of the burden in the last over a year and a half has been on me. And what you said, her friends urged immediately last year, be sure to have the powers of attorney. And, you know, my sister was so out of it then, but we did manage to do it. And, I never knew, was all new at that point. But now, so, I've spent the last year and a half handling a lot of things on my own for her, just because, she wasn't managing her own business. Everything was messed up,
Sure.
to find bank accounts, just all that. Now that phase is sort of settled now where, I have access to her accounts. I monitor everything from where I am. Now this next phase, and, I go through being overwhelmed like crazy sometimes. And sometimes I just am down to my last nerve. But the stage now that I'm at is, okay, I need to find local caregivers because, there's only so much that you can have friends ask them to do. And they do respond when asked, but there's a point,
Okay.
And so I talked to a group there in Greenville. I like them a lot. But now what I'm seeing I need to do now in the future, my next step is, over the last year and a half, I've got, her house a lot cleaner. It was just a mess. Takes a lot of effort over the phone. But the first thing to do is to find, a deep dive, a maid service that will do a deep dive and clean the kitchen, things like that. And
Okay.
I was just up there, for a couple of days for Thanksgiving. And, she's come a long way with the house, but like her room, it's like a tornado. But it's doing that. I feel I need to be there because I'm very concerned about people in the house that I don't know.
Sure.
But
So not to interrupt you or to stop you.
yeah.
That was wonderful context. And I'm so sad that we're talking today and not before Thanksgiving because we could have gone and had a cup of coffee.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, if caregiving felt easier for you in the next 6 months, or about 6 months from now, what would be different? The burdens, the conversations, the decisions, or your emotions?
I think what what's hard now, we communicate by cell phone. Uh, there's a lot of I go through a lot of anxiety if we talk twice a day. If she doesn't call me or if I can't get her when we're supposed to talk, then I go, "Oh my gosh." So it's my emotional reactions. And so having, you know, local persons come in that you would trust, that she would get used to,
Mm,
at least, because I found out a little bit, they could be there day to day. "Oh, I can't get my phone to work. It's broken." Well,
mhm.
it's not really broken. It's just you're having difficulty. They could help with a lot of that.
Okay.
And, you know, it's my life has changed a lot.
Mhm.
But I'm losing energy a lot.
Okay. So, may I ask some specific clarification
Oh,
questions?
sure, sure.
Does your sister have children?
No, neither of us do. She has a dog and she loves this dog. She she wants to stay home because she loves her dog. And I mean, right now that's feasible, but I'm seeing where help is needed on the outside.
Okay. And Joan, do you have a husband?
No, I'm single. So
Okay.
it's just, we don't have a familial support team.
Okay.
Okay.
So may I give you a few ideas that
Yeah.
popped up as we were talking?
Oh, of course.
Okay. So when you are looking at a situation where you have two solo agers, of which one has dementia, neither of you guys have children.
Hmm.
Your concerns related to what's been happening up until now are extremely valid. And now I want to ask you a very pointed question. What happens if you die?
Oh, yeah. Well, we had the wills done. I still need to do my will. There's
Mhm.
somebody in Greenville who does this kind of thing, who is a very trusted person, and she
Okay.
has written into the documents if I'm
Yes,
gone.
very good. So here's the reality of your particular situation. If your sister lives long enough with this
Mhm.
process, she is going to need 24 hours supervision.
Okay.
End of discussion.
Mhm.
So we have to figure out what that's going to look like in your unique, specific situation.
Mhm.
Options are: does she live with you? Do you live with her? Does she go to an assisted living with a memory care so she can transition over? Does she stay in Greenville? Do you move her to Atlanta? All of those things are questions
Mhm.
that you need to answer.
Mhm.
Friends are helpful and they are not necessarily going to step into the gap.
Yes.
Does your sister have the resources for assisted living?
Well, she took out a long-term care policy in the late '90s. That was one of the first things I looked at last year when I could find the documents. I had to dig for everything for a whole year in our house, but I did find I am listed as the power of attorney for that policy, so I can talk to them. And, I visited a place in Greenville that's wonderful. Her policy would cover memory care completely, and that's like, shoot, right now that's like 6,600 a month. It's a beautiful place with lots of things for the memory disabled person.
Mhm.
But she does, and so I mean, that was a very clear option from my point of view when it came time. However, she wants to live at home. She wants to be with her dog. I think she would maybe come time if she declines enough, she would go, but I don't think that's gonna happen for a while. She still drives, but it's only, um, It's only areas around where she knows where she's going. You know, we went to a place, in Georgia for dinner yesterday, and I drove, uh, so she's okay with that. But to answer your question, she has the resource because it's long-term care, and I am planning to utilize that. The group I'm looking at, Help Help Helping Hands or something, um, they are non-medical, and so where Medicare or her health insurance, the long-term care policy covers it, and so that's what I would tap into to pay for.
So, to start with long term care. So, let's talk about the driving real quick, and then we're going to start to wrap up.
Yeah, sure.
Has she been cleared to drive?
By whom?
Hmm.
Her doctor?
Does she have a definitive diagnosis of dementia?
I've never seen it in writing, but yes.
Okay. There is here in Greenville at Prisma Hospital through the Rogers C. Peace Hospital System in Greenville, there
Mhm.
is a driving rehab program.
Okay, I gotta get it.
Just because she is driving doesn't mean that she should be driving.
Yeah.
The drive if she has a definitive diagnosis, or you have enough supporting evidence, it may be worth getting a driving evaluation,
Okay.
because driving is a privilege. It is not a right. We do not have the right to drive. We have a privilege of driving.
Mhm.
So if your sister has enough confusion that it is evident to you and evident to other people, even though right now she is only driving in a certain area, it doesn't mean that if something happens that she doesn't just take off. So a consideration would be to get a driving rehab evaluation. Do you go with her to her doctor's appointments?
I have in the past, and there was also, uh, a close friend of hers who, like, we just had her dental work done, and
Okay.
this last visit, the friend did,
Okay.
evaluation.
Because if you're seeing these signs and symptoms, your sister is not accurately telling the doctor what's happening,
Oh, I realize that she's not capable because she'll say, "Oh, everything's fine."
because she's going to say everything's fine because according to her everything is fine.
Yes,
And right, so I would strongly encourage you to I'm very glad that you have the long-term care insurance. I'm glad you've looked at memory care. Um, I'm glad that you have started doing some of those things. And if your sister's already having trouble with her cell phone, which is a pretty complicated thing, and yet it's routine and familiar, that indicates she's having trouble problem solving, right? If she's
Mhm,
starting to have these difficulties, then we need to know, is she still safe driving? Because if she
mhm.
has assets,
Mm, yeah.
um, if she kills somebody, then legally the insurance company, the car insurance will pay,
Mm,
and the family has the right to come after everything she owns.
mm,
It's a tremendous liability. So it's where I would start with your unique situation. And the fact that you already have some anxiety, I call that the scientific part of my anatomy, right? My gut.
mhm,
You can't get a hold of her. That tells me she likely needs way more supervision than she's getting.
mhm,
Intuitively, we know when somebody is safe or not safe to be alone.
right.
So that you're already experiencing that discomfort indicates that closer supervision is already needed.
Mhm.
So was that helpful, Miss Joan?
Yeah, what was the name of that group within
Roger
prisoners?
C. Peace.
Roger C.
I put it
P-E-A-C.
P
Oh,
P-E-A-C-E. I put it in the driving. I put it in the chat
in
for
the
you.
chat.
Roger C. Peace.
Yeah.
Yes, and then
That
yes, ma'am.
Oh, that is very helpful, but I have to tell you that, that a year ago, when this first, became an obvious issue, uh, I tried to, through her doctor there, tried to get, a psychiatrist to evaluate her. The wait in Greenville through the Prisma Health System was 8 months to a year. I found
Okay.
that I found that completely unacceptable. And fortunately, her good friend, who is being helpful, has been helpful, found a private doctor through Psychology Today, of all things. And this doctor is wonderful, a psychiatrist. Linda sees
Mhm.
her every 2 weeks. And this woman has been more helpful. So I will look into this Rogers C piece, but I don't have a lot of confidence in Prisma, honestly.
I honestly I understand what you're saying, and to a large extent, I feel the same way. The difference, though, with Roger C. Peace and the driving program is it goes through the therapy department.
Okay.
So it's not waiting like if you're waiting on agents, Center for Success in Aging, or any of these places for a diagnosis in Greenville, you wait up to a year. But this would fall under outpatient therapy
Okay.
benefits. So it's a therapist, a skilled occupational therapist that actually does a physical and cognitive evaluation as well as response times, etc. And then they determine whether or not the person still has the ability to drive safely. And if they don't, it goes to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and the Department of Motor Vehicles will take the driver's license away. So it doesn't mean it's Joan doing it, right? Joan's not taking the car away.
Uh-huh.
The DMV took it away because of all these things. And so um that would be, and since she still lives alone and without seeing what things look like, you likely have a little bit of time, and you have to ask yourself, if she were to kill somebody and all of those consequences happen, how would it make you feel?
Uh-huh.
If we know somebody does not have the cognitive ability to be driving, we are morally obligated to step in and um, do something about it. It is a very difficult thing to do
Uh-huh.
because driving equates our independence, and I
Right.
understand
Right.
it. But the consequences of her being an unsafe driver is deadly. It is deadly. And so it could be deadly for her, it could be deadly for other people. And so there are multiple consequences to her being able to safely drive.
Okay. Okay. Lot to think about. Lot to think about.
At some point, long distance caregiving stops being management. It becomes exposure. You can coordinate, you can monitor, you can arrange help, but you cannot supervise from another city. And when supervision becomes necessary, the structure has to change. If you have heard today's episode and recognized your situation, you do not have an information problem. You have a decision point. Do not wait for the hospitalization. Do not wait for a driving incident. Do not wait for something irreversible to force your hand. Schedule your DigniCare solution session at thinkdifferentdementia.com or in the show notes below, and together we will identify whether your current structure is still safe to continue and what needs to shift next. And as always, I am excited that you are listening, and please share these episodes with other people. And as we end all of our episodes, may the Lord bless you and keep you.